Welcome. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the Pixlr image editor at pixlr.com, and I got a request to talk about the concept of layers. So once I get to the editor, I'm going to create a new image, and I'm going to create a 1280 by 720 image, which is our HD frame size, and I'll just save this. I'll call it OLIT 522 layers, and remember this time I'm going to choose the PXD layered Pixlr image. If you're using another image editor like Photoshop, the equivalent would be PSD. I'm going to click OK and just save that right to my desktop. So I have a big blank canvas here. I'm also going to open two images that I have. One image is very large. It's 2,000. What does it say down here at the bottom? 3,000 by 2,300 pixels. This is a full-size image that I pulled from Flickr. This is an image that I sized during our image editing assignment, and I sized this one down to 640 by 360. So parts of the same picture, but very different as far as the size goes. Notice that I can have 1, 2, 3 different image documents open, and when I select them, they come forward in my workspace. So you can manage multiple projects in the same workspace. What I'm going to do is go to Edit, select all. This is that 3000 by 2000 size image, and when I select all, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to choose my new big blank document. Now this is only 1200 by 720, which is smaller than that original size document. Now remember, the key about layers is we have this layer navigator over here, and by default a background layer shows up, and you know it's selected because it's highlighted in blue here. I'm going to click this little icon right here at the bottom of the layer navigator, and that'll give me a new layer. Now I have layer 1, and it is highlighted in blue. So I know that I am going to, when I do my paste, which I'll do right now, paste. This is the full-size image. Oh, and it actually created a layer and dropped it. I always forget that it does that. So now I have a highlighted layer 2 with this full-size image. Now it's much larger than my canvas size, so when I choose the select tool or the move tool here and click down on my image, I can drag it around on the layer. And here's the flower that's sort of in focus. I'm going to close this. Original image. I don't need to save it. I have this smaller image, 640 by 360, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll select all, edit, copy, and now I'll choose my new project, and I'll just paste, and I know that it's going to create a new layer for me. And there it is, layer number 3. And notice that this image now is much smaller than the original. And so since layer 3 is selected and highlighted in blue here, I can begin to manipulate the object that is on that layer. In this case I have the move tool selected, so when I click down I can move that image around. Let's close this small image, so that now all I have is this new layers project that I'm working with. So far what I have is layer number 3 with a small image, layer number 2 with a large image, and I have this blank layer number 1. Now when I select a layer and it's highlighted, that means I can manipulate that layer. I noticed that what happened was when I clicked on the layer, it swapped my layer number 2 and layer number 3. I find that Pixlr does that sometimes. It swaps the locations of your layers. So sometimes you might need to manually go in there and order them in the order that you'd like to see them. For example, I'm going to grab layer number 2, click down, and just drag it below layer number 3, and now I can see that element that was on layer number 3 again. I've got this blank layer, layer number 1. I'm going to click down on that and put it right on top of my other 2 layers. And now if I do something like click on the select, the marquee tool, and I choose a color down here with my color selector, something like green, and click OK. I can select an area with my marquee tool, and then with my paint bucket tool I can just fill in that area with green. I'm going to select my move tool and go up and deselect all. And now with my move tool I can move this green element around. So note now I have 3 layers. Layer number 1, which is this green rectangle that I just created, is chosen. And since it is on top, when it overlaps those other 2 image elements, the green is what is going to be on top. Now if I take my layer number 1 with my green rectangle, which is highlighted in blue, I click on it in the layer navigator and I just drag it down between those 2 images, then I get the effect now that my rectangle is between these 2 image elements. So hopefully you're starting to see how working with layers is in essence a digital collage, in which you're overlaying multiple elements, and then you have an order, meaning that whatever the last piece that you put on top of the collage is going to be on top. We have the capability with this navigator then to move our layers. Now remember this full-size image, which for us is layer number 2 here. If this goes on top, because this image is the size of the full size of the canvas, it will now overlap everything, all of our other layers. We won't be able to see any of those pieces because it's such a big element. And if I pull it back down again, then I can see my other elements. So sometimes when you're working with layers, you might, especially with Pixlr, because sometimes it changes the order of your layers for you. If you have something that fills the full canvas size, and all of your elements disappear, or one of your elements disappear, check your layer order and make sure that that your full size element isn't now on top of all of your layers and in essence covering them up. You have a few other options when working with layers. Specifically, you can turn a layer on or off, meaning it would be visible or invisible. There's a little check mark right here in the layer. So right now I'm looking at my small photo, which is this one here. If I click the little checkbox in the layer navigator, it turns it off and it turns it on. So you can quickly turn on or off your different elements. Say you want to test what a few elements look like with each other, but not totally delete an element. You can just turn it off and then turn it back on as you need. So that's a very handy piece. Being able to move the layers is a very handy piece. And I also find that naming your layers something recognizable makes it much easier to organize layers, especially as you start to get 10 or 15 layers, and you're not then trying to guess what elements on each layer. So I could say something like small pick, and see when I did that it reordered my layer. I'm going to name this green rectangle green rec, and I'll move that back up so I can see it. Large pick. I recommend naming your layers. I think that it saves you time in the end, and it definitely is a lot less confusing as you start to get many layers. Now, when you are working with a layer, you have a series of settings that you can apply to the whole layer. For instance, if I click on my green rectangle, this icon right here is for your settings. You can change the opacity. So right now it's 100%, which means that this is 100% green, whereas as I move it down, say, to 50%, or type in 50%, then I have 50% transparency on that layer. And so now my green layer is a nice green transparent rectangle. Once again, I can slide that back up and say make it 75%. When I'm done working with the settings, then I can just click this icon and closes it, and I get all of my layers back again. So specifically, you can apply opacity and some other lighting effects to your layers. Now I want to keep this kind of short, but specifically the question that came in was how can I order different image elements using the document, the Pixlr document? Well, the answer is by using layers, and really the key is knowing what order you want your layers to appear in, whether I want my green rectangle to be on the top or whether I want it to be below an image. And by only putting one element, say one image or one shape, on a layer, I can start to order those elements in the way that I want them in the final document. So I'll just click Save, and it'll save right over the top of my document that was there previously. And that should be it. Please let me know if you have any other questions about layers or any other elements within Pixlr, and I'd be happy to make another video, or we can work through that on the phone or through email. Thanks for watching.